So all we have to do is look at recent headlines to know that this is a serious subject. NATO help on way for troops in Afghanistan. French deployment frees U.S. to send more help to Kandahar. Canadian helicopters headed for Afghanistan. Chinooks will carry troops to cut down on land travel. Government retracts call for firing of Kandahar governor. That was a fun little Donnybrook the other day with the government accusing itself of various things. We're all grown-ups. Most of us here are grown-ups. Some of us are almost grown-ups. We all know that love and war is complex and difficult and not fair, and rarely does it show up in black and white. There are a lot of subtleties. So our subject this evening, perhaps, or at least the way it's stated, may seem a little simplistic, as often the titles of debates are. Good evening, everybody. My name is David Berner. Welcome to the Langara Dialogues. Wonderful to see this crowd here. We are filming this, as always, for Langara, but we're very delighted, and we want you to be delighted as well, to welcome Ariana TV, which is Afghan television here in Canada. And we're quite thrilled to see these folks here. The evening will work like this. We will have a debate. I'll introduce our debaters momentarily. And then one of our faculty members from Langara, whom I'll introduce as we get to him, will direct some questions, and then the floor will be open for your questions and answers. We start always sharp at 7:30, and we leave sharp at 9 o'clock because we must vacate this room at 9:15. Quick set of announcements. We thank our sponsors as always. Our sponsors include the Vancouver Public Library. We thank them, A, because they let us use this lovely room, and they give it to us at a cheap price. That's important. We thank Van City Savings because they pick up the tab for that cheap price, and it shows their continuing commitment to the importance of engagement in public discourse. I think Van City's a pretty kind of unique and much beloved financial institution. Could we say those words all in one breath? Beloved financial institution? Sure, why not? We thank the Vancouver Sun. Some of you are here because of the quarter-page ads that the Sun runs for us, gratis, and we thank them. And those of you who are enjoying Blend's Coffee, we thank Blend's Coffee for the coffee and the water for our speakers. We will have a debate, and the debate will work like this. 3 minutes for each speaker for opening remarks, 5 minutes for their main arguments, 3 minutes for rebuttal, and 3 minutes for closing remarks, after which we'll introduce you to our Langara faculty member and some questions from him, and then questions and conversation with you. The topic this evening, oh, by the way, about our sign-in, we were encouraging everybody to give us your email. Now, some of you may not want to, you may get enough spam or enough emails, but we just want to let you know what's coming up next. That's the reason we're doing it. So if you missed signing in, and if, by the way, if you do sign in, do it legibly, because I blew about half of them last month because I couldn't read them. And as everyone knows, we all go out of our way to make our email addresses kind of kooky. So it's very difficult sometimes to figure it out. In any event, if you miss signing in on the way out, Barb and Norm White, our dear friends of the Dialogues, will take your names. Please do that. Now, the topic this evening: the Canadian military should leave Afghanistan at once. Here are our debaters. Debating the affirmative, Derrick O'Keefe is an educator, activist, writer based in Vancouver. He's got a bachelor's degree in geography and economics, Bach Ed, University of BC. He's been working on social justice issues and international solidarity issues since '97. He was part of the famous APEC demonstrations in Vancouver at that time. Currently co-chair of the StopWar coalition. You can find them at StopWar.ca. He's been a member of this coalition since its founding a few years ago. He's a founder of the online journal 7oaksmag.com. Contributed articles to many publications, including The Straight, The West Ender, Z-Mag, Monthly Review, and he's editor of rabble.ca, Canada's most widely read source of online progressive news and analysis. He was one of the organizers of a cross-Canada tour made by Afghan women's rights activist and member of Parliament Malalai Joya in the fall of 2007. He's currently working with Ms. Joya to write a book about her life and her courageous activism for genuine democracy and human rights in Afghanistan. Arguing the negative, an equally distinguished and active personality here in Vancouver, Lauryn Oates, most well known to people as a founding member of Women for Women in Afghanistan. She is a human rights activist with particular expertise in women's human rights issues. Much of her work focused on information technologies, mother tongue language accessibilities, and so on. She has worked with clients here in Canada, the United Kingdom, Germany, America, Afghanistan, and a number of other places. And she's been advocating for women's rights in Afghanistan since 1996. She's also on the board of directors as vice president of Canadian Women for Women in Afghanistan. And I just realized that if I go on telling you all about her, we'll be here till midnight, because she's a luminous person. She speaks French, English, Spanish, and a student of Dari. What is Dari? Where does Dari go? Afghan dialect, Dari, okay. Farsi, like Farsi, okay. I didn't even know that. So you can be 65 and learn new things. She's a recipient of numerous awards and distinctions, including the 2000 Chatelaine Woman of the Year, 2001 National Post, L'Oreal Canada Women of Influence, and so on. So let us begin with our affirmative speaker, the debate. Canadian military should leave Afghanistan at once.
Thank you, David, and thank you all for coming out tonight on a night when there's playoff hockey on television to listen to a debate and participate in a discussion on this very important issue. And thanks especially to Langara College and David Berner. It's very good to put a face to the voice that as I grew up, it feels like I grew up listening to on CKNW and calling in sometimes with an indignant question, depending on who the guest was. It's an honor to participate tonight to debate the war on Afghanistan. This event is billed as part of a series of dialogues, which I think is very welcome. On the issue of Afghanistan, unfortunately, our politicians and our media, with very few exceptions, have been speaking in a monologue over the last 6.5 years, really, of our intervention in Afghanistan. The Liberals and Tories have certainly been speaking with one voice on this war in recent months, and that's why Canadian troops are now committed to be in Afghanistan, in Kandahar, till the end of 2011. And I don't know, there was a little news story yesterday, if any of you heard it. No, not the RCMP raiding Conservative headquarters. Conveniently, it was also announced the same day that General Rick Hillier is stepping aside on July 1st. And it was disappointing. I have to say that the commentary today on General Hillier's resignation focused on his charisma, his ability to make glib comments, his sense of humor, and generally the fact that the media loved this guy. He provided a lot of quotes and was, by all accounts, an engaging personality. Unfortunately, I really found lacking an assessment of the last 3 years of Canada's engagement in Kandahar, which coincided with Hillier's heading up the army in this country. And we all remember the comments about detestable murderers and scumbags. That was part of really ramping up the campaign to support the war and specifically the redeployment to Kandahar. Well, detestable murderers and scumbags was a phrase used to describe those fighting NATO and Canadian forces by Hillier. But that, I believe, is an apt description for many of the forces in Afghanistan who have been key allies of the NATO occupation. People like Governor Khalid in Kandahar province for the last 3 years. Someone who the Canadian government knew was engaged in torture. This is the governor of Kandahar personally engaged in torture. And the Canadian government had received reliable reports of this, and they blacked it out. They kept it undercover, out of the media spotlight, and until very recently, obviously in recent days, they've now spoken out publicly about removing Khalid. But for months, and indeed at least a year, they've been defending Khalid as an honorable guy and as an important ally. And Khalid is really just the tip of the iceberg of the murder